Yeah, so I think recording started now. Yeah, so welcome to our March Meetup event, and happy to have a talk on a cool premium feature, Paginated Reports. And this is especially interesting because, as you probably have heard, the premium per user licensing will be generally available next month. And we now also have a final price, and it's actually, I think you can say really affordable. It's $20 or then 17 euros, I think it was in Germany. So about twice the price of a pro license. And so it's thankfully more in that direction than in the premium pricing. Yeah, so therefore all these premium features become an option also for smaller companies where premium was too expensive. And yeah, one of these features is Paginated Reports. And with that, I hand over to you, Laura, to give us this introduction on the cool feature. Just a quick announcement, questions as usual. Let them come in the chat. And yeah, we will then either answer them at the end, or if it's something understanding in between, we can do this as it fits best. Yeah, so with that, Laura.
I'm happy for questions to appear in chat, and I will answer them as I can along the way. I will pause. I'm going to try and get it so that I can see the chat at the same time as my presentation. So let's share a window. And then convince Teams to give me back the window. Right. Hi. Paginated Reports. Let me just do a quick, let's click the right window, Laura. A quick introduction of me. I've been doing stuff with citizen developers, playing with data for far too long. I remember Excel when we all were sitting there going, why are we using Excel? Why aren't we using Lotus 123? Which is about 25 plus years ago. I'm active on Twitter, LauraGB. I have a blog, Hatful of Data, and I also have a YouTube channel, and that link is wrong. That link is wrong because I think you have to have a C somewhere in there. I will check. That's slightly amusing, but I'll put a link to my YouTube in towards the end of the talk. So, and over Christmas I did 12 days of paginated reports. So I did 5-day introductions, 5-minute introduction kind of style. So let's. I don't do slides very much. My apologies for anybody that wants a long explanation. I kind of do a simple report and a simple agenda, and then the next slide says demo. See, that icon, that Paginated Reports icon, is old, and it's not the one to be using now. So, Paginated Reports. For anybody that's done access reports and those style of things, let me find my Paginated Reports window. There we go. For anybody that's done access reports, or those kind of things, or SSRS. Apparently, I've never done SSRS. So I had to learn Paginated Reports because I had a client who had to print something. I had done them beautiful Power BI reports, lots and lots of work on some really complicated Power BI reports, and then they ask you the question, can I print it? And that's one of my sessions I've done for a couple of groups is brilliant report, can I print it? And that one I touch on paginated reports, but not a huge details. So paginated is really good for those things that need to be a one-off. You need a PDF, you need a print, something out there. Okay, it is not a replacement for Power BI, and you'll soon realize that we are spoilt in Power BI desktop in comparison to paginated reports. So Paginated Reports, it's not yet available in the Microsoft Store. I don't know if it's going to appear there, but it's not there at the moment. If you search for Report Builder or Power BI Report Builder download, you can download it. It recently updated. Okay, if you haven't got a publish button in your version of Power BI Report Builder, you've got this slightly older version. So here I am inside a template. Okay, so I've built this template and it's pretty boring to build, but once you've built it, you can reuse it again and again. The important things about this template is we have to do lots of measurements. Okay, if you're that kind of person that likes laying things out exactly, Paginated Reports is what you want. The important parts I set up in here was the width and the size of it, and I also set up a field up here that has the report name and a field down here with page numbers in. Okay, so you can add in, if we look over here on the built-in fields, there are all the different things that I could put into there that you can bring in, and you can literally just drag it in. It's not going to let me do it. Let's drag in a page number. You know, I said, oh, sorry, I had something selected. That's my problem. If I drag in a page number, I'm going to delete it again in a second. I can drag and I can drop it. And there you are. It's just added that field, and you can format it as you go. So you can lay out a basic page, right? Before you can do anything with any data, we need to connect to some data. So the first part we need to do is we need to do a data source. So I'm going to do a right click, and you've got two options here. I will demo a Power BI dataset connection in a minute, but we're going to start with a data source, which can connect to a number of connection types, but they are limited. You've not got the same flexibility as you have got in Power BI. Okay, so if I'm going for my SQL Server database, I'm going to call it services, and then we click build. And it starts to ask you what things you want in there. And I am just, because I can never remember what it is, I am just going to go and get my server name. Copy that and pop that into there. Okay, and I'm going to do my authentication slightly differently. I'm not using Azure, I'm using that one because it behaves better for me. Okay, and we can pick a database or test connection. You sometimes need to do the test connection for it then to give you the drop down, and there you are. It gives you a set of data. Let's go for the Valentine one and click OK. Okay, and so therefore it gives you a connection string in there. And you can click test connection here so that you can make sure that it's working. It will, the first time you do that, it will ask you to put in your username and password again. So there we are, we've got a data source with our expenses in. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're then going to create a data set. So data sets get created automatically by Power BI Desktop. For every visual you have, there's a query that goes on behind the scenes, and they're built automatically for you. They're not here. Okay, so we're going to add a data set, and I'm going to call this expenses. And here's my data source. And then there is a Query Designer button down here, which we're going to click. And this is just the first time. When the first time it's going through this in a report that you've connected up, it prompts times. Okay, so into here, if for those of you that play with SQL Server, you'll recognize the DBO and the tables, etc. We can go through here and we can pick our tables, and there's all our columns. I just click a tick at the top and it picks all my columns. There we are. I've got those in there. And we'll come back in here later on and talk about parameters and things. But let's just click OK. We're going to do a really simple report. And we're then going to click OK again. And there we are. I've got a data set and it's got a whole lot of fields. OK, so let's do the simplest thing in here, which is what we're going to do is, and I'm sticking to really simple ideas of reports and things. There are lots of people, there are a few people out there who are doing some prettier stuff, but let's keep it simple tonight. We're going to insert a table. So here's my table, and it gives you a table wizard. And you can choose your data set and click next. And I'm going to take all of those, and you can do your groupings, but I'm just going to pick all of these and I'm just going to throw them into values and click next. Oh, sorry, there's not that. I'm not doing any totaling or anything in there because I haven't put any groupings in there, so it's not for those. Then I click next and it gives you a preview, and then you click finish. And there you are. It's put the table in. Now you have to get really used to the fact that I could go up there and drag it and try and position it, etc. But actually, it's a lot easier if you go over to the right hand side over here with the properties. There is a location here, and you get really good at working out where things are in comparison to other things. So I've got a location here. And if I change that left to be 0, it'll put it against the edge of the page. I've got page margins, so it's okay. Now I happen to know that my header is 1.5 centimeters tall. If you, I set up the defaults in here for being centimeters. The default for the ones when you first start, if you start with a Microsoft version, is of course inches because they're in America. And they're even worse than the British and refuse to admit the fact centimeters exist. So that's given me a really simple report. Okay, I can then click run. And there you are. It's given me a version of the report. It's not the prettiest thing in the world at the moment, but it's given me a version. Okay, so I've got a date there that's badly formatted. I've got money here that could be formatted better, and I've got titles perhaps which should be sorted out a little bit better. So if we go back into design, so rather than in Power BI Desktop, we have the lovely thing of being able to say that column is this type and format it like this. It doesn't work like that so much here. So that date, I can click into that date and it's gone blue. I'll do a right click and there's placeholder properties. This is the easiest way to do it. And then up comes formatting, very similar to other places. If you've gone to number, here we go. I can go for date. And I can pick a pretty standard date, or I can go to custom and I can do my formatting with D's and M's. I am assuming current regional settings. If you're in a different regional, you use different letters. I have to confess, I don't know. But if I pick that top one and I click OK, So, and I'm going to go, and the top row here has been filled up with the column names, but they are just text. So I'm just going to take out expense date. I'm just going to call it date. And that expense type could just be type. So it's all a bit fiddly. Which, if that's the kind of thing that you're okay with, so then I can run that, see what it looks like. So that's looking a bit better in the titles. It seems to have lost its data for the moment, but the chances are if I go to print layout, the data will appear. So occasionally there's oddities like that. That's what the page is looking like. The page title is missing. That only appears when you publish it. Okay. So let's just put some pound signs onto our money, and then let's have a look at publishing it. So if I come in to so the miles isn't, the miles is just a number of miles, but the amount here, I could go to the placeholder properties here, and I can again put in number, currency, and you pick your currency. And there we are, we can go for a run. And there we are, it's there. Okay. So let's go back to the design. And I'm going to go for a publish. Now I happen to be logged in a premium workspace. But all of the things I am showing today will work in a premium per user. So that's a premium per user one there. I'm going to put it into here. Yeah, that's not got it in already. So there's nothing I'm showing here today that can't be done in premium per user. And the $20 a month or $10 extra if you already are a pro user makes it so much more appealing. So I've just published that. Let's switch across to the right window. Let's see if we can get the right window. That looks like the right window. So yeah, you keep telling me something's gone wrong, and it hasn't. So if we go and have a look, there it is. It's just been loaded. Now, what you need to understand is, unlike Power BI, it doesn't have a data set behind it. It runs at the point at which you open the report. Okay, so it goes and fetches the data at this point. Okay, so there is no data set to put a refresh in. There is no refresh to put into there. When it comes to a report up in the service, you can export it out in whatever format you'd like. Okay, so we can throw it out. We can throw it out into Excel or CSV. That works fine. Or PDF, etc. Or weirdly Word. That's the one that gets me. I don't understand why anybody's going there. But usually, if people are either going PDF or they're going Excel, because this is one way of getting data out of a Power BI data set or another form out into Excel without people and in an easy way for people to use. Okay, rather than them having to know Power Query. So we've produced our report there. Let's go back into our report builder. So the obvious question is to make it a report that can be customized. so that it can be shown for one value. And so what we're going to do is we're going to filter it really simply by cost center. Okay, so I've got a cost center column here. Let's turn and say you only want to see one cost center that applies to your expenses. So let's go back into design. And so there are multiple ways to do this. Okay, but one of the ways that I found the easiest is to right click on expenses and go into the dataset properties and go to my query designer, and on the applied filter to bring in an applied filter. So I can click, if I go and click on cost center and then click that there. No, that doesn't work. I thought that did work, but never mind. We change this one here to say that I want it to be cost center. Okay. And rather than putting in a value, I want it to create me a parameter. So we're going to click parameter there, and I'm going to click OK. And for those who are happy writing SQL, it's pretty obvious what it's doing here. This is a simple SQL query, and it's done the expenses.costCenter equals @costCenter. So the @costCenter is our parameter. And if I then click OK, you'll then see up here on the left hand side, we've got a parameter called cost center. Okay, and it will have been set up as the right type and the right naming, etc., for everything to work. So now when I go and I run this one here, it asks me what cost center I want. So if I put in B01 and then click view report, there you are, you get the B01 version of the report. Okay. Oh, and if I publish that, up. Now, if I go back into my workspace, when you run the report, it will ask you what cost center you want. So let's put in A01 and view the report. And there you are, you get the A01 version of the report. But that's fine, except for the fact that you have to know what the cost center is. Okay, so the cost center parameter up in the top right hand corner here has some properties. And so you can change what the prompt's going to be. So it's put a space in there, but you could put in there if you wanted to give them extra assistance, etc. You could go with that, and then that when you run the report, gives them the extra piece of code. So you can change the prompt to fit what you need it to fit. You also could change it so that it becomes a drop down. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to hopefully get this one right. We're going to add a new data set. And we're going to go for, it is going to be called cost centers. And if I remember rightly, you can't put a name, you can't put a space in the name of a data set. And query designer. There's every chance in your database you've already got your you've already got a list of cost centers. So I've just done a group and aggregate and done a group by, because that's a really quick way to get a unique version of them. You also could go and edit the query, but this is a nice easy way that doesn't break it. So you can, in all these things, go and edit as text, but as soon as you go into edit as text and you edit it in any shape or form, you can no longer use the graphical one. Okay, so if I just turn that off a second, I didn't do any editing, it allows you to stay in here. Okay, so there's some pros and cons. If you're a coder and you don't mind doing it totally in code, that's great. But as soon as you do that, you can no longer go back into this. Okay, and there we are. We've got a little bit of SQL in there. And I know for an awful lot of people here, that's something you'd prefer to type by hand anyway, or copy and paste from SQL you've tried on your database already. So we can then click OK. So I've got a list of cost centers, and what I can do is I can come up to my cost center up here, and I can do right click, parameter properties, and I can go for available values. So get values from a query. You could go specify values and you could add them all in manually, or get values from a query, and I can go and pick my cost centers. And it's a cost center. So you could have that you're picking up a name of something, and so the value is the ID and the label is the name. But in this one, I'm just using cost center. So then we can click OK. So now when I run it, we get a select a value, and you can drop that down and you can pick a value and view the report. Okay. We've got in there, we've got our we've managed to put in we've managed to put in a set of parameters. We've managed to filter it. We can publish that. Okay. There are other things you can add in to your, so that there are a whole bunch of things up here that you can add in to yours. Most of those I've not had to do, because most of the things I've been having to do have been creating tables and putting in some extras. Okay. But I have done videos on creating the data bar. But actually, the one thing I wanted to show you, because it's not obvious, if I go and run this report, that's the other thing, is it remembers what you had there last time. So if I put in AO1 and I view the report, okay, you can see here the sorting is completely rubbish. There's no sorting in there at all, and you need to be able to sort things. Okay, and I will show you a report in a minute that goes over multiple pages. That's another thing that is not obvious. It really isn't. So in order to sort things, one of the things to bring in, and I've got them open up already, is the grouping. Okay, that's here. So you've got a number of ways of doing it. You either can do it in your data set, or you can do it in your actual table. So you might want to use a data set for multiple things. So it's in the table that I'm going to do the sorting. So in my sorting down here, I can go for, there's a drop down arrow in the row groups, and there's group properties. And in here, there is sorting. And so I can add in the sorting, and let's sort by expense date. And it's not clever to go new and older and all those kind of things. You've just got A to Z, which is ascending, and Z to A, which is descending. So let's click OK on that. And then let's go to home and let's go to run. Pick a value. That was the wrong one to pick. It's only got one row of data, Laura. So there we are. Now these are sorted into order. Okay, and you could add multiple levels of sorting if you've got multiple columns. Okay, so this is all very well if your data is already in Dataverse or SQL Server or one of the limited numbers of data sources you've got. But if you're hoping to have the wonderful range of data that you could have from Power BI, you haven't got that. Okay, so in those cases, you have to jump and look at it in a slightly different way. So I have a report. I had it open a moment ago. So here's a classic. Okay. The data is made up by Mockaroo, and so the issue details are rubbish text. And Power BI is just not plain ball. There we go. We're going to expand today or not? No. Yes. Thank you. So here we are. We've got a classic. I've got 172 issues. If they go and publish this and then they try to print it, obviously we end up with the issue that you can't print all those because there's a scroll bar. Okay, so this is a classic of where actually Paginated can come in. If you do really need to print it, we can print this table in Paginated instead. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a brand new report. I'm going to go, I have to admit, I'm going to go and open our template again. And that's the other cool thing you can do. You can open a report straight from the Power BI service. You don't actually have to download it first. And you can, when you publish it, puts it straight back there. Yeah, let's save changes. And that's the other thing to be aware of, is that you can publish it without saving it. So therefore you can end up not having the file. So it's only in the service, which is fine. So here we are back in, and I made this one originally for my issues report because that's why it's got the little icon in the top right hand corner. So we're going to go and we're going to add a data source, and we're going to connect to a Power BI desktop. So I'm just having a quick look. Can you save export to HTML? Yes, I think you can. In a minute, I will show you a way that actually allows you to do the HTML bit inside an email quite nicely, because you can do some nice things with it. I think you can. I have to admit, there is a way of getting the HTML. The data model built for Power BI is. Sorry, I'm reading Fernando's question. The data model built for Power BI is in. You'd have to build it before you can do what I'm about to do. But so far, you're right, Arthur, that there's no model been built so far at all. I just connected straight to the database. Okay, this one is we're going to build from a model. So there's my issues. I published it just before this session. So click on to issues and click select. And there you are, it's brought through my issues. I can then come into here and I can do a right click and I can add a data set. So let's call this issues. And go to my query designer. Now the query designer is a little bit different in this case. Once it gets there, it's having to. It's not quite as fast because it's having to go into your Power BI things, and you can see you get a different window, so you don't get quite the same feel. And doing relationships, etc., is a little bit more complicated. But I'm just going to go for issues, a simple version here. And if I'm going to go for bringing in the issue ID. And I've not found an easy way to bring in a whole set of them. Okay, so I'm going to bring in my issue priority and bring in the issue details. What else have I got in this? What else have I got in here? And I've got status. Let's bring in that one as well. And you can click to execute it, so I can see what it looks like. Okay, and then I can click OK. And for those of you who've looked at who use DAX Studio, this is this. I'm sure you recognise the evaluate part, etc. So if I then click OK, so there's my issues table. So I'm just going to do a really simple insert a table, my table wizard. So any of you who have watched the SQL BI examples of how to get that query out of a report you've already built, then you can copy and paste that code into here. Chris Finland does a really good example of it in one of his videos. So that table. Why am I not getting my location? And that's the other joyous part. It's just now and again, it's really difficult to get hold of the table that's in there. So what I'm just going to do is I'm just going to remove some things so I can get back to the table. I've not found a good way. So there you are. I picked the table again now, and now I'm just going to move it so it's in the right place. Just as I did before. Okay, and then I'm going to pick that one there, and I'm just going to move that one back to where it should be as well. So its location, that its top is at 0. Okay, so there we go. There is my, and if I do a run on there, there we are. We've got our report, and if you look here, we're going up silly numbers of pages for various reasons. The one thing to check is that if you do a next, do you actually get a page? Okay, if you have made by accident, and it's really easy to do, if you've changed the width of this by a little bit, you end up with those blank pages that are the page that doesn't fit. Okay, so for anybody that's done Microsoft Access reporting, you'll know exactly where I'm coming from. So what I'm going to do in here now, I would probably, if I was doing this for a client and making sure it's okay, I would make sure that I understood the widths of everything. I'd make them all add up. But just for this example, I'm going to go like this. They all end up being right aligned, which is slightly weird. So I'm going to make those left aligned. And then I'm going to press run. And there we are. We've got it down. And okay, it's lots of pages. So you probably want to filter your data. Now I could say I want to filter the whole data set to not be closed. Okay, anything but closed, to make it a shorter, so I don't read all my closed calls. So I can go into, I can right click on issues and go into the dataset properties. And there is, so there's a number of things. If you need to rename your fields, you can by coming in here and renaming them. And there's a number of things in options about case sensitivity, etc., but we're going to leave that alone because that's reasonably behaving itself. Well, what I want to do is I want to add a filter, and it's pretty nice. It builds it for you. So I want to have it with the status doesn't equal. Okay, so we can add a filter to that, and that's to that whole data set. So now if I click run, hopefully it's a bit of a shorter report. There we are, we're down to 10 pages. Okay. And obviously there'll be other things that you'd probably want to filter on, like you probably get rid of the on holds, etc. But if I go to page 2, you'll see that I don't get a heading on my tables. You get a page footer, but you don't get everything else. So if I get back into design, here comes intuitive 0. But this is how it works. What we do is so do you remember I turned on this grouping, which it remembers for every report. This is a thing of all your reports. And over on the right hand side here, you've got a down arrow. And I've got advanced mode. And there is the statics. Okay, and that static there is the top row of my page. Okay, and that one there, if you look over on the right hand side in the Tablix member parts, there is a repeat on new page and it says false. And if I change that to say true, now when I go and I run my report, and I go to my next page, there you are, you get your headings. Okay, and that I detailed in one of my 12 days of paginated reports. Okay, so they're in the various steps there. So yes, you can. So if I go back into my report here, okay, and we go for, so let's go for a really simple other visual that I've got in here. Come on, give me the thing. So I've got so let's say I've got a table here. Now don't do it on a matrix. Convert your matrix back into a table. And the important thing in here, oh boy, my PC is not happy. The important thing in here is to so don't stick. So I'm gonna convert that into a table. And the other important thing to do, just to make it work a little a lot of trouble for a small tiny question. Oh yeah. I have said to various people, yeah, you can print it. Would you like to know my daily rate? The one thing I would do in here, just to make it easy for yourselves, is I would turn off totals. So you literally have only got the data coming through. So I've got a week there, issues and priority. Okay, so if I take that one and I if you haven't come across it yet, it's I'm assuming most people here have, but you go to the performance analyzer You start recording. I'm sure the performance analyzer is used more for this than anything else. You do that refresh. It tells the bits that are taking way too long. You come into here and you copy the query. Okay. Now I know that the data set has got the same columns because I've connected to this data set. So now I can come back into Power BI Report Builder, and I'm going to add a data set. And let's put this as my summary, let's say. And it's the same in here. And then what you do is you click on the FX. You take out the equals and you paste. Okay. And by the way, it's that doesn't look like enough. Oh no, there you are. That's a nice short one. Some of mine are just ridiculously long. And then we click OK. And then we click OK again. And just for ease, okay, guys, I realized that we could do arranging and things like that, but actually what I'm just going to do, just to prove it works, I'm going to delete that one. And I am going to insert a very simple table. A bring in summary. Just to prove it works. I'm going to stop bringing one that's got a heading at this rate. Or I wish you could put a default location because that would be so useful. But on Saturday, the Saturday Power BI Live, they had Chris Finlan on. Sorry, Gyna Cube, Saturday Live. They had Chris Finlan on at the weekend, and he was talking about the fact they're looking at a web-based paginated reports one, which would be interesting to look at. And there we are. We've got our report that's come through. Okay, you could do more things with it, counting it, etc., etc. But that gives you an example of where you could go. Do we also have subscriptions?
Yes. Power BI service for paginated reports.
As that email doesn't seem to be coming through. Let me go back into the Power BI service. There we are. So, into here.
There it is, yeah.
So up here, you've got subscribe.
Yeah.
And we can add a new subscription.
Okay, similar to Power BI.
So you've got exactly the same things in here. You set up the filter, set up the report, and it will send it through. Okay, and you can pick how often you'd like it to happen, etc. Exactly the same way.
Okay, yeah.
The one
so that can also be used theoretically.
Yep. The reason I step into Power Automate to do it quite often is that I don't want it sent. My background is an email administrator, and my view is that actually, if we want a PDF, the chances are we want that PDF put somewhere central, and people work at it from there. So that actually, let's save it to Teams, and let's work on it. Let's work on it in that regards. But yes, you can subscribe. You can't external people. I don't think you can go to unless. I know you can because it's a premium space. But obviously, your administrators can also stop you sending out They also could have turned off it's sending outside of your business. Okay.
Yeah, but cool that this option is available at least. Yeah.
Yeah. For those who like a course, etc. So let me come back to my slides just for a second. There is a paginated reports in a day. In a day, a long day, in my experience. It's I would like to actually see that done in a day, but it would be a long day. Mr. Finland has also got a YouTube channel. And if you don't know yet, understand the paginated bear. The paginated bear belongs to Mr. Finland's lad, to his son. And he turns up whenever Mr. Finland turns up. It's great. There is also out there Paul Turley. I don't know if you haven't come across Paul Turley's blog, you certainly should give it some time. It is a brilliant blog in lots and lots and lots of regards. I'm going to find it in a minute. It's in one of my windows. I've lost a browser window somewhere. Oh no, it's gone sideways. That's where I'm getting confused. Paul Turley's paginated reports. I will put out a link to this one as well.
Yeah. He had a session recently. Yeah. Yeah.
He's. What did he come and do a session for you?
No. I mean, on his blog, he had kind of a series of articles on paginated reports.
Yeah. He also has a brilliant series, which I realise isn't the topic of tonight. He also has a really good series on doing Power BI right, which has got some really nice ideas in it.
That's right. It's also good.
So yeah, no, he's done some brilliant stuff. And so he's got this recipe book, which is really good, and it's got some really nice, easy things in there to do. And there is also another guy out there who I couldn't find his link quick enough for tonight, who has done some incredibly pretty stuff, some more visual graphics inside a paginated report, which some people will need. Okay.
Okay. If you find it later, you can send it to me via LinkedIn, and then I can add it to Meetup. So that.
Oh, that would be brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
Then I can just gather it there. So that's no problem.
No, that would be cool. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and you just put the link in there. That's great. Any questions?
I just maybe only have one question more from my side. I think it was also recently a topic in the Guy in a Cube stream, the paginated reports visual that is coming up. Do you know something about this already, or I think it's scheduled for May in preview at least?
Yeah, I think in the things it's scheduled for May, and there's part of me that's kind of fascinated as to what it's going to be, because I don't know what a paginated report can do that I can't already do in Power BI.
It sounds kind of good with the report and with the cross filtering and things like this, but I don't know with the use cases. You're right, with the combining reports and paginated reports, it's not really.
So it'd be interesting to see what's there. But they all seem to get very excited about it, so I'm kind of waiting to see what happens when it comes. The other link that they did recently, Guy in a Cube did a video on, which I haven't had a chance to do yet. But is a demo that would be quite a good one to do, is so that going back to my report that had that the issues report with the scrolling list, to then be able to put a link inside a report that would take you to the paginated report, so that then you could do the printout version. That's quite a nice idea. I quite like that one as a concept. I've also used paginated reports, and this is going to sound appalling, and I know it's got some serious issues, but a lot of my reporting is for Project for the web, not the latest version of Project, the older version, and they need to do snapshots. So they need a monthly snapshot of the current states of projects. So what we do is we do a paginated report into Excel. So they get they get their monthly snapshot. It's an OData connection and all sorts of things that we just tried to come up with a really simple way that they could look after, that gave them their snapshot, and it works. I don't like it because they then take that snapshot and put it back into Power BI. Don't ask me. But it's their way of doing it, so they could compare months. It's another use of paginated.
Yeah. If it works, it works.
It works, and you know what? I've walked away, and it's carried on working. So as far as I'm concerned, that's the the bonus point as a consultant.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. No, I think no more questions. So big thank you, Laura. It was a great introduction.
I just
and I definitely
how spoiled we are by Power BI Desktop, that it's so easy to use in comparison to this.
That's correct. Yeah. You have to get used to this.
2003. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like doing a paginated report does feel like you're going back in time. You kind of look at it thinking, I'm sure this is a bit 1990s.
But I think if you still need printed reports, you should go back in time.
Yeah. It is, but they're looking at some changes to it. So hey, it's I just didn't realise there's an ebook. I knew there was something on here that there was an ebook that he's produced, but people are doing stuff in it, and that it's getting some love. So we'll see where they're taking it next. It doesn't look like it's a product that's dying. It recently got an update. So I think it'd be interesting to see what happens.
No, I think it's a really good kind of it's filling a certain niche or a need that you can't cover with Power BI alone. At least from my opinion, without being too deep into this. But I think that's also one of the reasons, and I think this will always stay there. So it's really just not any, as you already said in the introduction, it's not like a replacement or anything like this. It's really just a special use case. But the good thing is you can keep the data under the hood in sync and don't use like multiple sources or something. But you can just have the report in different ways for specific needs. I think.
Yes, it does back the whole one place, one source of data.
Yeah.
Rather than there being a different version of the Power Query
the Power BI
inside
idea,
an Excel file.
So,
yeah. So it fits that.
In paginated reports, absolutely.
Yeah. No, it is. It's cool, but it's. I think it's got some, and there's all sorts of talk about bringing Power Query into paginated, etc. See what happens.
I also saw recently some new data connectors, ODBC or something, being available now for paginated reports.
Yes, I haven't had a chance to play with that, but that opens up a whole set of stuff. And it'd be quite nice if it could just connect to a data flow. That would be cool as well. But then you'd have to work on relationships and stuff. You'd have to think about that. So it is worth. But the one other thing is, if you are on premium, your premium in order to save on capacity, they will turn off paginated reports. The number of places I've had to turn it back on again. Like, no, in this workspace I need paginated reports, please. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, so big thank you.
My pleasure.
Really cool presentation.